Hello, fairy finders and fairy seekers. Welcome to FaerieQuest and a new episode of Real Fairies in Real Photos. We are at what I'm calling the No Name Trail in Pine Lake State Park, and this trail was just a whim because the day was cool, no mosquitoes, no bugs, so great time to go up this trail and see what is actually there. It's a pretty fascinating trail. Never thought I would get the photos that I got with this one. And spoiler alert, we have dragons. Seriously, we have dragons. And I've learned a few things here with this particular photo shoot that is going to make me do things a little bit differently from here on out. So anyway, let's get started here, and you'll be seeing dragons, but you're going to have to make it to the end. Let's go. The first fairy on this no-name trail appears to be an animal as we know animals. Most likely, in their existence, fairies can all speak to one another and understand one another, no matter what species of fairy they are. I don't believe there is any designation between species as lower beings versus higher beings. That seems to be a human thing. This fairy blends in with the color of the tree, which includes white areas, what we would call spots. It looks like it was coming through the space between the two trees when I snapped the photo. At first glance, you might think this fairy is really happy with what looks like a big smile, and he might be, but I get a different impression. Normally, a smile that big would be seen in the eyes too, and there is no twinkle in this fairy's eyes. If you look closely, you will see a fang coming from the top lip. My belief is that this fairy is hissing, perhaps part human looking and part snake. He's not looking at me, but may have felt threatened by my husband or Sammy, our Chihuahua. We appear to have a viewer here. This fairy being is very large and is obviously partly in our dimension and still partly in their own dimension. This always makes me wonder what they come to see and why they choose areas that are quite secluded. Though it is quite a gift to be able to scope out a place before they put their whole body in possible harm's way. The expression on this fairy's face isn't fear. It is more of, oh, there are humans here. Might not be the best place to come. I guess I answered my own wondering about secluded places. We humans don't have the greatest track records of caring for Mother Earth and her inhabitants. Word gets around. This no-name trail really does not have a lot of green foliage in comparison to other trails, so some of the fairies are dirt-colored. Here, we have a tiny fairy under a rock ledge, nearly unseen. Some fairies could be seen with the naked eye if a person was paying attention, but the fairies who choose this no-name trail are practiced blending with the dirt, making it nearly impossible to be seen unless a photo is taken. On this fairy, we see hair, a face, an arm and hand, and a body, though legs are hard to distinguish. Another dirt-colored fairy. She is looking at us straight on, so we can see her hat, hair, both eyes, her nose, and one shoulder. The rest of her is behind the leaf. She does look as though she might be wearing a flower or barrette in her hair above the left eye as we look at her, but that could be just the light too. She's a cutie. My first thought was that this fairy was climbing up and out of a hole, but when I paid attention to his position, I realized he is actually sitting in something. Whatever it is, he had to climb down into where he is sitting, as his lower body is at least an inch below the surface. We can see one eye on this fairy and his nose. He has a very thick beard and long hair to match. We can also see one arm and hand. There are two fairies in this photo, though one is just peeking his head out from behind the tree. We can't see much of him. The other is well blended into the dirt background. He is wearing an elf-type hat, and we can see one ear, eyes, and a mouth, though the facial features are not defined. We can see one arm and hand, and I believe the other arm is under the nearly transparent green cloth that is right in front of his face and hand. I believe he is sewing. His feet are interesting too. If you look closely, he has forked feet. I have avoided marking the cropped photo above with a lot of red arrows because I don't want to skew the view at all. We have here what I like to call a fairy dragon. Yes, it may look a little different than what you imagine a dragon may look like, but no two dragons are alike. I know this because I have taken photos of other dragons. We can see this one's ears, eyes, and mouth, and he appears to be quite a friendly and happy dragon. It has blended into the dirt as the other fairies have done, with great skill. I am not sure if this fairy is hiding from the dragon we saw in the previous frame, or if they are playing hide and seek. This fairy is wearing a hat, and we can see most of him, but not his legs. His nose and mouth are behind his hand, but we can see his squinty eyes, and there is no mistaking his ear. He seems to be holding a stick or wand in his left hand. Just like the dragon, this fairy is various shades of gray to blend into the dirt background. Now this is a cute little guy, perhaps an elf. He is hiding up toward the top of the photo. We can see his hair, eyes, nose, and a light line where his mouth is. The arm we can see is bent at the elbow and up to his chest. We can also see both legs, but only one foot, as the other foot is hiding behind some sticks. This is another fairy that is in the gray world. Oh, he has a very long hat too. The tip ends just below the word arm in the cropped photo above. We have a very cranky looking fairy here. He or she is sitting in the doorway of the bottom of this tree and is looking back with a very annoyed look on their face. Though this fairy is dirt gray, we can see the facial features well enough and the arm and hand with claws. There are no legs to be seen, so this fairy must be sitting, and the legs are inside the tree hole. This one could have been missed if I was not accustomed to looking for faces and limbs. This no-name trail has been very interesting and seems to get more so with each photo. This one is a unique one for sure. I know there is a human-looking fairy under the first arrow, as we can see his face in profile quite clearly. He is wearing a hat that is leaf-colored. The other fairy being, the white one, is like none that I have seen before. I almost dismissed it as a trick of the eye, if it weren't for the two little teeth in its mouth. It seems to have a horn separated from the face by a black strip, and we can see its eye, part of its nose, and its mouth. This is fascinating, to be sure. Two dirt-colored fairy beings here, possibly a couple. He is in a dark-colored suit, ? And is looking directly at her. She is behind the leaf. She has very thick eyelashes, and we can see her ears, the hair on the top of her head, and her little nose and mouth. This is one of those that you need to step back a bit to see well. We can see his hair, ear, soft eyes, and nose too. They don't appear to be the same species, but looks can be deceiving when they are coming from a photograph. If I had been looking with my eyes where this photo was taken, instead of in the viewfinder of my digital camera, I would have seen this little fairy. The problem is, though, I would have probably tried to get to it and pick it up. Maybe not a good practice. But seriously, look how adorable this fairy is from the back. We can see the back of its head, its back, one small part of the left front foot, both back feet, and a tail. It has to be a baby of some sort, but the mother is nowhere in the photo. I wonder if this little one is old enough to be out on its own, or if it wandered from home. This photo was a bit blurry, as sometimes I snap and move instead of holding still. When this happens, I usually put it in my No Images file, because if there were a fairy in the photo, they would be too blurred to share. This one was an exception, as it popped right out at me when I opened the photo. We can see its pointed head, one ear, both eyes, and dark lines by the nose. We can also see just a bit of its chest above the branch. Another one I probably could have seen with the naked eye if I wasn't viewing through my digital camera's viewfinder. I nearly missed this fairy as I only saw the green leaf part, which reminded me of a bird on a branch. I kept coming back to it though and finally saw the dirt-colored head with eyes, nose, and mouth. That's when I realized that the bird's eye was actually the end of a sleeve from his outfit, and that his arm and hand were extending out of that. The bird's other eye, not as easily seen, was the other sleeve end for the other arm. I believe this fairy is wearing sunglasses. We are seeing here an older fairy woman wearing a fancy hat with a white jewel on the front. We can see her face in profile, clearly seeing her dark hair and her nose, but her eye and mouth are not as defined. There is evidence of her upper torso amongst the gray foliage and sticks she is sitting in. She looks as though she is dressed for a party. I don't believe I have to use red arrows on this one. Again, without the camera viewfinder, I probably would have seen this dragon lizard with the naked eye. His eye stands out first and foremost and looks more like a dragon eye than a lizard eye. We can also see scales under the eye. The snout appears very short, but the stick-like pipes behind its eye may be folded up wings. I really wonder what it looks like under the dead leaves. This seemed to be the day for fairy dragons, as this will be the third one in this video. The blend here was phenomenal. We can see the eye on the left wide open and what looks like fur next to the eye, different than the leaves anyway. The other eye is closed, but we can still see the eyelid and lashes. Then the nose was given away because of the nostrils. It is a pretty good sized dragon, so the rest of its body must be in another dimension. Not sure if it was coming or going. So that's it for the No Name Trail at Pine Lake State Park. These photos were taken August 12th, 2022. I do hope you've enjoyed this video, and until the next one, take care.